Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Uh, Alok, sir. Right now, participants are joining,
Okay,
so you can, sir, join at around 10 o'clock, sir. We will start at 10 o'clock.
right. So I'm leaving.
Yes, sir. You please join at 10 o'clock, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So we will start in our session, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all participants. Warm welcome to everyone on this second day of our FDP 3D printing and design for academicians and entrepreneurs. And the speaker for this session is Dr. A.K. Das sir, and his topic will be on overview of metal 3D printing using DMLS. So let me give a short introduction about the sir. Dr. Alok Kumar Das sir is working as an associate professor at Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT ISM Dhanbad. He did his PhD from IIT Kharagpur and postdoctorate from Politecnico di Torino, Italy. He has more than 12 years of teaching and research experience. His current research includes unconventional micromachining, laser processing of materials, and electric arc based additive manufacturing. He has published more than 80 research papers in national and international journals. He has several granted patents also. So it's an honor for me to invite Dr. Alok Das sir for to deliver his talk. Sir, please.
Thank you so much.
We can you can share your screen, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I welcome all to this FDV program, and myself, Dr. Alok Kumar Das, has been introduced by our student. What is the name, please?
Sir, Jayaprakash Srivastava.
Yes, Jai Prakash. And I also I'm thankful to Dr. Pankaj Kumar and his team coordinating this program.
Thank you,
And
sir.
today my talk will be on an overview of metal 3D printing using DMLS. Is it audible?
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Audible.
Okay. So during this talk, we will discuss how to work with a 3D printing system, and what are the different difficulties, and how we can carry out research with our available setup in our respective colleges or departments. So this will be my presentation outline: introduction, followed by types and comparison of AM process. It might have been discussed by many other speakers. I will focus on in two process only. Then our topic of discussion is direct metal laser sintering process. Here I will discuss the different controlling parameters and their setting, due to which it is commercial setups are not very user friendly. Then laser interaction with the powder, mechanism of sintering, advantages, limitations, and applications of this DMLS technique. Then different types of laser used for this DMLS process. Then challenges, then how to overcome challenges. Then a case study, the experiments we have carried out in our lab at IIT ISM, that I will also present before you. Then lastly, conclusion and future scope. So this is a very basic slide. We all know that manufacturing technology has three major supporting pillars. One is subtractive processes, then formative processes, and last one is additive processes. So we all knows the merit and demerits of these subtractive processes, where the wastage is more. Then formative processes, where we can reduce the wastage significantly as compared to the subtractive processes. Then lastly, additive processes, which is the present discussion. And worldwide, lot of research is going on additive manufacturing processes. By now we all know what is the definition of additive manufacturing. It is basically making a component by layer. It is a very basic definition, and it was introduced into market in 1987. Then other popular names, from time to time people have named this process, like rapid prototyping, generative manufacturing, 3D printing, and I have several. Then additive, with the keyword additive, it is additive manufacturing, additive layer manufacturing, additive digital manufacturing. So time to time, researchers have linked their research to the naming also. Then if you take the keyword layer, the layer-based manufacturing, layer-oriented manufacturing, layer manufacturing. If you take rapid, then rapid technology, rapid prototyping, rapid tooling, rapid manufacturing. Similarly, if you take digital, it is digital fabrication, digital mockup, then direct manufacturing, direct tooling, and at the end, if you take 3D, it is 3D printing, 3D modeling. So various researchers in the various part of the world, they have named like this. So it has common term, the additive manufacturing. So this slide shows the basic difference between a additive manufacturing and subtractive manufacturing. The row A shows the subtractive manufacturing process, where you have a bulk material or solid material at the beginning, and at the end you will get the object, 3D object, and material wastage. Material wastage in the form of chips, we all know. So to reduce this wastage, another process come in between, that is called metal forming process, where you can reduce the material wastage significantly. And the last process is the additive manufacturing. People thought that to reduce the waste, we can go for this process, but there is a costly process involved in it, the making of this metal powder. Here it was a bulk material, so you have to convert this material into powder form. So this involves huge amount of cost. That's why the cost of fabrication and cost of component goes very high. In addition to this material preparation, setup also having some constraint that also we will discuss in our presentation. But here the wastage is reduced to minimum level, and there is other advantages also we will discuss. So this is a very common technology which is followed in all 3D printing machines. So first you have to develop a CAD data, or you can use a 3D scanner, or you can use this technology to get the coordinate points over the component surface. Coordinate points over the component surface. Now, with the help of these coordinates, what we are doing, we are making a slicing. We are making slicing. That means you are slicing it through the whole object into different layers. So now, when it is sliced, then it is very easy to develop or to manifest these coordinates in terms of G code. So G code, you know that it is well-known CNC code. So when you convert into CNC code, then it is easy to control the motion and it is easy to get the printing. So this G code files is transferred to the printing machine. So now we'll see what are the different methods of printing of component, and what are the different materials we can print. So this is the broad classification of additive manufacturing process. 7 major categories of the classification are directed energy deposition, material extrusion, binder jetting, material jetting, sheet lamination, and the polymerization technique. VAT polymerization, because VAT is used for tank. You are using the liquid, you are putting a liquid in a tank, that is called VAT. So that is called VAT polymerization. So all these processes, and the last, powder bed fusion technique. So all these processes have certain limitations, certain advantages, and it is applicable to specific purpose. So let us discuss about this directed energy deposition and powder bed fusion. Other processes, I hope other speakers might have discussed elaborately. So I have one more slide for the directed energy distribution. Here we'll see how we can conduct experiments in our normal laboratory using our available setup. So this is 2 types, where the powder is used, and another way where the wire is used. So when you use wire, you can reduce the cost significantly, because cost of wire is much less than the cost of powder. So let us consider the powder technique. Here you can see they have used laser beam, but laser beam used at a heat source here. So instead of using laser beam, you can also use plasma, you can also use electron beam, even you can also use your MIG, you can use your TIG, tungsten inert gas welding process, for this DED process, or direct energy deposition process. So if you take powder, then you have to, in this process, you have to blow the powder along with the laser beam. This is a very latest technology, available in the market. So it is called coaxial flow powder technology. So here powder is blown along with the laser beam, and you can see a screw conveyor is being fabricated through this technique. Here powder is being preheated in the laser head, and it is strike into the surface. So in this way, the 3D printed part is fabricated or developed. So, but the problem is the market cost of this setup is very, very high as compared to other setup. So now the other process is wire process. Here you are using a wire and a heat source. The heat source may be your laser, maybe your plasma torch, or maybe your TIG welding torch. Okay, so based on the availability, you can use this heat source, and sometimes if you can combine this heat source and the wire, it may be your MIG, metal inert gas welding process. So just you think of that welding, you are doing welding, and you are putting layer by layer of the welding material or welded material. So you will get a 3D printed part. So if you give a CNC motion or controlled motion, you can fabricate a component. Of course, there is requirement of some post-processing operation, and you have to take care of the other things. So next is powder bed fusion technique. This is also very old technique. It has several types. One is direct metal laser sintering. Okay, let us come to the basic principle. So here you are using the material in the form of powder, and you are preparing a bed at all time to give the layer thickness. So just imagine this is a schematic of the powder distribution process. So here the storing chamber for powder, and you have a plunger here to push the powder up, and here is a ruler which pushes the powder to this zone, and this piston goes up, and this piston or plunger is moving down. It can move up and down, but during fabrication process it goes only down. So now the new powder pushes and distributed over this surface, and after distribution is complete, the roller come back to its original position. Then you program your laser head to center the selected area as per your CNC program. So after one layer, you just move this one down, then another layer of distribution. In this way, you will able to fabricate the 3D printed part as per your requirement. So now this process is classified into different types. The first one is direct metal laser sintering. Then if it is electron beam heat source, then it is electron beam melting. Here melting takes place, and here it is sintering. Then selective laser melting. If laser source is used to melt the powder particles, then it is called selective laser melting. Then selective laser sintering. Here again you can get the sinter reaction. So with the laser you can get both sintering as well as melting. So common materials that can be used in all the four techniques are stainless steel, titanium, aluminum, cobalt, chrome, steel, all those things. But it has certain limitations. That's why a universal commercial setup is not available till today. That we will discuss. And here the advantages we all know: the reduced material wastage. Then powder act as the integrated support structure. You don't require any support structure for this process. The large range of material options, but you have to fine tune the process. Then disadvantages: the manufacturing of the metal powder is expensive. Then lack of structural property in material due to some defects and residual stresses induced in the component. Then size limitation, because it depends on the bed size, how much size you are using. Then high power usage because the laser efficiency is very low. Then finishing, you have to go for post-processing operation, that is the finishing operation. So next slide will show the difference between the different process. I have some problem with the display. There is a box at the top. Okay, now it is gone. Okay, now the difference between SLS, DMLS, and SLM. It is very important to know or to learn the difference between three processes. Selective laser sintering and DMLS are fundamentally same. Okay, but in DMLS you go only for metal, but SLS you can have some variation in material like plastic, glass, ceramics. And it can be also applied to the metal and alloys. So other differences is in SLM you melt the metal powder. In DMLS you don't melt. Partial melting takes place, or you can say that you are just fusing the surface of the powder particle to make bond with other particles. Then selective laser sintering. Here you do again sintering, but here you can control the porosity in better way as compared to SLM and SLS. And furthermore, I have included one research paper. It is a book. So here it says they have fabricated one component, that is a tire thread ring, through three processes: SLM, SLS, and DMLS. And they have claimed that DMLS process gives better result as compared to SLM and SLS process. And they have reduced the manufacturing time. It means they have reduced the cost significantly, and just by selecting the process without changing any material, working material, they have increased the hardness. You can see almost 2 times from these processes. So even researchers have claimed that DMLS process provides the superior the component quality and other thing. Now we'll see the basic steps involved in the DMLS technique. So here you have to provide a substrate, and over the substrate you have to distribute the powder layers. So first layer distributed, after that laser beam is scanned as per your declared profile. So then next layer is distributed, then then laser beam will scan over that next layer. So similarly, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, and up to the required number of layers, you have to make it, you have to distribute the powder, and you have to scan the laser beam. So at the end, you will get the desired component. Here you can see a cube like this. So it is almost impossible to fabricate a wire mesh structure like this through the conventional processes, which is easily fabricated through this additive manufacturing process. So this is a downloaded video. It will show you the overview of DML process. After that, we will discuss why commercial setups are not very successful, and why we cannot select wide variety of material, or why we cannot use wide variety of material in the commercial setup. All those things we will discuss afterwards. So let's see the video first.
Direct metal laser sintering also known as DMLS, is an additive manufacturing technology that creates metal parts directly from 3D CAD data without the need for tooling. DMLS utilizes a variety of metal and alloy materials, such as stainless steel, cobalt chrome, and Inconel, to create strong, durable parts and prototypes. DMLS is an excellent choice for functional metal prototypes, high-temperature applications, and end-use parts. The DMLS process begins in the same fashion as other layer additive manufacturing technologies. A program takes 3D CAD data and mathematically slices it into 2D cross-sections. Each of these sections will act as a blueprint, telling the DMLS machine exactly where to sinter the metal material. The data is then transferred to the DMLS equipment. A recoater assembly pushes powdered metal material from the powder supply to create a uniform layer over the base plate. A laser then draws a 2D cross-section on the surface of the build material, heating and fusing the material. Once a single layer is complete, the base plate is lowered just enough to make room for the next layer. More material is raised from the cartridge and recoated evenly on the previously sintered layer. The DMLS machine continues to sinter layer upon layer, building from the bottom up. As the part is built, support structures are added to give supplemental strength, fine features, and overhanging surfaces. The completed part is then removed from the base plate and treated with an age-hardening heat process to further harden the part. Any support structures are also removed at this time. With numerous surface treatment and hand polishing options available through service providers, DMLS parts can be used in highly cosmetic applications. Typical uses for DMLS include tools and manufacturing aids, small integrated structures, dental components, surgical implants, and aerospace parts.
So in this video, it shows how the product is developed and designed, and after that it is printed. And after printing, they have done some post-processing operation, and it is a functional product. You can use it directly in the component or devices. So now we'll see why the commercial setups are not very successful to print different materials. The first of all, I want to show you different controlling parameters in DMLS process. Then we'll discuss one by one. So I have classified the parameter into three types, not three types, into three categories. One is, the first one is laser beam parameter. It is very, very important for any good quality sintering process. Then powder material parameters. Then next is geometric parameters. Then the last one is the purging gas parameter, the assisting gas parameter, you can say, or purging gas parameters. So in the laser beam parameters, it is mainly the beam energy or power, then effective beam diameter, then spot size or diameter, then scanning speed, at what speed your beam is scanning over the powder bed. Then beam mode, it is not very important. Generally, we use the Gaussian beam or TEM00 mode beam for this DMLS process. Then it is the continuous wave laser or modulated, that means pulse laser. If it is pulse laser, again, the parameter will be the frequency of the pulse. So either you can go through these parameters, or you can consider this. Instead of using the power and spot size or the beam diameter, you can directly write the energy density or power density, which is nothing but the energy of the beam divided by the area of the spot size. So it declares everything what is listed here. Then in addition to this, scanning speed, beam mode, and modulated or continuous wave. Similarly, the powder material parameters, we will see in the next slides. The average particle size, you have to very careful about the particle size. Then geometrical shape, how the particle looks like. Then the reflectivity, because laser beam, you know that it is having property of the light. So it undergoes reflection, refraction, absorption, transmission, everything. So you have to consider the reflectivity, absorptivity, and transmittivity of the powder. Then reactivity with the ambient gas. Powder you have taken. What is the reaction with the different gases? Geometric parameters that it is also important for the getting different strength without changing the material, base material. Just by changing the geometric parameter, you can achieve different strength from the same work material. So that is hatching distance, then hatching pattern, then third one is the powder layer thickness. All these are I have included under geometric pattern, geometric parameters. Then last one is the types of gas you are using in the DMLS process, whether it is oxidizing gas. Sometimes depending on the requirement, you can use or you can vary different gases. It is oxidizing gas or reducing gas or inert gas. Then its flow rate. So now we'll see how a laser beam is delivered and how different parameters are calculated and fine-tuned. So this schematic diagram shows the beam delivery system. It consists of a laser source and a fiber optic cable through which the laser beam is delivered from the laser source to this beam expander. At the end of this fiber optic cable, there will be some beam expander, because the fiber optic cable or optical fiber is having diameter of maybe a few hundred micron, even less than 100 micron. So 100 micron or less than 100 micron beam diameter will not be useful for material processing. That's why you have to expand the beam. So there is a beam expander which will expand the beam at, for example, 100 micron beam diameter to, for example, 10 millimeter or 5 millimeter. Here it is 5 millimeter. So now this beam diameter, increased beam diameter, can be focused by using an optical lens, and it can be focused any point. So here the focal point, depending on the focal point of the objective lens, the laser beam will be focused. So at the focus point, at the focal point, you will get maximum energy density. Energy will be same, power will be same, power will be same from here to here, from here to here. But the density of power or density of energy will be different, because the area is varying from this point to this point. Okay, in this way, you can vary the energy density by changing the distance between your objective lens and your workpiece. So this is a very basic procedure to be followed in laser processing of materials. Now we'll see, okay, now we have focused the laser beam. So what is the energy density, how to calculate it? So I have another slide to so there are two methods. One is theoretical method, another is practical method to calculate the spot diameter. Spot diameter is important, and beam energy or beam power can be measured by power meter, laser power meter, or you can know it from the laser software. For example, you have a 1 kilowatt laser, you are pumping only 400 watt. So you have to set in the software that 400 watt to be delivered. So it will give 400 watt. Either you can use that value, or you can measure with the power meter, actual delivery of energy. So now, how to measure this spot area? So as you know, laser, for example, this is the objective lens from where the laser beam is focused. So you will see laser beam will move in this path, and first is convergent, then it is divergent. So this from here to here, approximately from here to here, it is known as depth of focus, or you can say the energy density here, the diameter of the beam from this point to this point approximately similar. So when diameter is same, then you can say the power density or energy density remain constant from this point to this point. So if you put any material here or here or here, the power density remains same throughout. So if you move away from this zone, then you will get reduction in energy density or power density. So you have to be very careful about the length of this zone or depth of this zone. This is called the focal depth or depth of focus. Although in the picture it is very wide, but in actual practice it is very narrow, very small distance. So you can use the lens formula to find out the diameter here. For our case, where the beam diameter was 5 millimeter, our case we have found out that it is 0.022 millimeter. So now the practical method, although you are using this diameter of beam, but in actual case, it is not effective. You can see this is the powder bed. It is scanned, single line scan. These are the scan paths. These are the scan path at different scanning rate. So you can see there is a variation in the powder fusion line. So here it is more. As you go on increasing scan rate, at the last you will get less width. So it is depending on the concentration of energy. So although your diameter was this much big, but you will get only this much width effective diameter or effective width. So here you can measure this width and you can count as a spot diameter. So there are two ways to measure the spot diameter. When you do any experiment on the laser material processing, you have to declare whether you have calculated power density theoretically or practically. And sometimes, if it is a low melting material, then sometimes the width of this scan path may be more than this beam diameter. That also you have to consider. So in this way, the energy density was calculated. Now, the geometric parameters. This is the laser beam. If how it the laser beam, how it scan over the powder bed. This is a very common method. Just you go through this way and come back like this, again go like this, again come back like this, like this. Then the last way is just cross way. So you move along this direction. After that, again you move your laser beam in this direction. So this is the cross hatch. This is the alternate hatch. So in between, you can arrange your scan lines in different ways as per your requirement. And through this arrangement, you can enhance your strength of the component. So in addition to this, this is the hatching distance. Hatching distance means this is the hatching distance. From this axis, this is the hatching line or hatching path. This is the powder bed. And the distance between from this to this is known as the hatching distance. Then hatching pattern, these are the hatching pattern lines. Then powder layer thickness. So thickness of powder is known as powder layer thickness. So every time you are giving or distributing powder as per this reference, that is called powder layer thickness. So in this way, you have to maintain your geometric parameters. So when the particle size changes, powder particle size changes, then you have to fine tune all those things. What should be your layer thickness? What should be your scanning speed? What should be your hatching distance? All those things you have to fine tune. That's why the commercial setup is tuned for 3 to 4 variety of powder. Okay, it cannot take wide variety of powder because of this. This is one of the reason. Then next we'll see how the powder laser interact with the powder particles. So when the laser, you know that it is a radiation. So when it fall over the powder bed, it undergoes all reflection, and other losses like conduction loss, like convection loss, and sometimes due to metal vapors also form. So all these things comes to picture when you do modeling on this process. This slide show how the sintering takes place, mechanism of sintering. So you have different sizes of powder. Sometimes if you mix one powder with another powder, different particle size will be there. So during the sintering process or heating process, the particles fuses and it make bond with the nearby particles. So at the end you can see is the sintered component. If it is different material having different melting point, you will get sintered MEMC. If you melt both the material, then it will be alloy. And when you don't melt fully, it is called metal matrix composite. This slide shows the advantages, limitation, applications, and different lasers used in DMLS setup. So advantages you already know. I want to make it quickly. Complex geometry can be fabricated. Then part weight reduction can be done wisely. Reduce the development time. Then strong and durable component, rapid prototyping, no tooling cost because you are not using any tools. Here, any type of component, any shape of component, if you can define the tool path, then you can fabricate it through this DMLS technique. Then it gives high quality, high accuracy also, excellent property, low lead time. We have already discussed one research paper on the low lead time in the DMLS process. The limitations include high production cost. As you know, you have to convert bulk material into powder. That's why the production cost goes on increase. Then limited component size, it depends on the sintering chamber. Then post-processing is required sometimes. Then considerable effort is required because if you change the material, again you have to fine-tune all the parameters to reach the best quality of the product. Then again, I want to add one more here, material constraint. There is no universal machine to fabricate parts from a wide variety of materials. Then different lasers that can be used, CO2 laser can be used, ND-YAG lasers can be used, fiber lasers can be used, disc lasers can be used. So using these lasers, commercial setups are also available. Then it has wide variety of application, no need to discuss. We all know it has very, very wide applications. But friend, I want to present in front of you that although it has very huge research areas, but in future, after 20, 30 years or after 50 years also, it cannot replace conventional machining process. It may be one of the supporting manufacturing process, but it cannot replace. You cannot forget about the conventional machining process. Always you have to take help of the conventional processes. So here, a wide variety of aerospace component can be fabricated, automobile components can be fabricated, critical components can be fabricated, then biomedical application, robotic application, and this process can effectively used for new material development or metal matrix composite or alloy development. Now we'll discuss what are the different challenges in DMLS process. The first and the foremost thing is ball formation. So it is a very obvious process or very obvious difficulty we face when you go for any sintering process using laser and using powder bed. So what is this? Now when you For example, first layer of distribution of powder over the substrate, when you scan the laser beam, suddenly you will see the balls are formed over the surface. It looks like a ball. You can see here balls, here the balls. So when when the balls are formed over the surface, though it is surface will be very irregular, so when you distribute the second layer of powder over it, so the layer thickness of the second layer will be non-uniform. It will not be uniform. So when it is not uniform, then when you scan with the laser beam, what will happen? The melting will be improper in the second layer, or the sintering will be improper in the second layer. Somewhere it will be melted, somewhere it is sintered, somewhere the laser beam cannot touch it. So it brings the defect in the sintered part. So that's why you have to fine tune your operating parameters to reduce the balling defect. These are the few reasons I have listed. But friends, again, if you vary the material, these regions may not valid. So every material, for every powder material, you have to fine tune the parameters. So the regions include discontinuous scan track. Then metal powder layer fails to weight the substrate lying under it. So when you melt, the melted powder may not be compatible with the substrate material. So that's why there is a defect. So vibration in CNC motion. So if your CNC motion vibrate up and down, or zigzag motion, then the power density of the laser beam also fluctuate. So due to that, you will not get uniform sintering process. Then wrong selection of process parameter. For example, you have taken very high laser power and you have taken very low or very high scanning speed. Then also I can say the powder average particle size also plays a role in the balling formation, and combination of powder sometimes also lead to ball formation. So ball formation is very critical limitation of this process. So when the balls are formed, I have listed few demerits or limitations, like powder layer thickness in the upper layer will be irregular, already discussed. Then it increases the surface roughness of the surface. Then pore formation will be there. You can see here, these pores will not be covered by the second layer, because when you scan the laser beam, this pore, the laser beam cannot reach this pore. Then deterioration of mechanical properties, it is obvious. Then how to control the fine tuning of the laser and lowering the scanning speed. Then reduction in layer thickness, you should not go for very thick layer of the powder. Then reduction of oxygen present in the sintering chamber. So how to reduce it? By purging some inert gases, or you can do or carry out the experiments in the vacuum chamber, where you remove the atmospheric gases from the chamber, or you can purge some inert gas like argon, helium, all those things, depending on the compatibility with your work material. Then reduction in a scan line spacing elevates the ball formation. Then by introducing small amount of deoxidant, like boric acid, if you put small amount of boric acid inside the chamber, it will absorb the oxygen from the chamber. Boric acid or potassium tetrafluoroborate you can put in the chamber. So in this way, you can control your balling formation to some extent. Then other defects are your pores and crack. This is again from the research paper. They have used Nd:YAG laser, pulse laser. So this is the laser track path. You can see the pores are formed here and here. So you have to be very careful about the pores, because pore, again, the open pore or the blind pore or blind holes, you have to very careful about the pore formation. Similarly, crack may also form. You know that the basic reason behind the crack formation is the residual stress. So you have to why residual stress? Because you know the laser is a very fast process. So fast process means you heat fast and you process the fast. When the processing speed is very fast, then material doesn't get time to relax the stresses or release the stresses. That's why there will be some residual stress. Residual tensile stress is detrimental for the surface. So the crack you can observe here. Then this slide I have put that mechanism behind the pore formation. So for example, you are using pulse laser and this is one pulse, then this is another pulse. So just you take both the pulse. So when pulse means again in the pulse or in the beam diameter, you will get some energy distribution. For example, Gaussian beam, that means at the center, you will get highest power, and when you move towards the periphery, the power will be reduced or the energy will be reduced. So the center gets center powder, get maximum power, here reduce. That's why after firing, you will get like this. In stage 2, the star shape is formed where the center contains maximum energy. As you move like this, you will get less energy. So the star shape will form. It will be connected to the other stars like this. This is the fusion zone. So at the end, the stage 3, you will get a neck formation like this, and this is the horn pore. This is one of the mechanism, but it is not. It is taken from the research paper. So how it is controlled? So it can be controlled by proper selection of laser power and scan speed. Then scanning line spacing, then powder layer thickness, other parameters, size of reinforcement particle if you are fabricating or you are developing metal matrix composite, then reinforcement particle also plays major role. Then size of the suitable purging gas, whether the oxidizing gas or neutral gas or your reducing gas. Then control of residual stress in DMLS, it is also done by proper combination of parameter. Then post heat treatment of the parts. If the residual stress is not very severe, then crack will not be visible suddenly, but afterwards, when the functional component is utilized, you will see the crack. To release those stresses, you can go for post heat treatment process. So in this way, you can control the defects in the fabricated component. So these are the few reasons why the commercial setups are not very successful, and it is material specific. Moreover, if you purchase a commercial setup from one company, then you have to purchase the metal powders from that company only. If you powder the same metal powder from different company, it may not work. So people worldwide doing research on that, how to get a universal setup, DMLS setup, which can utilize wide variety of powders. So with those theory, I want to present before you some case studies. This is a PhD work carried out by my student, Dr. Manwar Hussain, and he has done this work for his PhD thesis. So he has tried to fabricate or develop new material which is very strong, very hard, and wear resistant material. And he has used this DMLS technique to fabricate or to develop the material, and he has characterized the materials through this process. So he has done the morphological studies, microstructural studies. He has measured the density of the fabricated material. So then micro hardness also he has measured, the XRD analysis, then wear behavior he has also tested. So here you can see the material combination, the stainless steel grade 316 with titanium nitride. You know that titanium nitride is very hard material, and the density of titanium nitride is less than the is different from the stainless steel. You can see the density list here. Then similarly, he has tried to fabricate with CBN as a reinforcement. Titanium nitride is a reinforcement material. This is the matrix material. Similarly, he has changed the reinforcement material and he has taken CBN. Then titanium alloy powder with titanium nitride, titanium alloy powder with the CBN. So he has tried to develop lightweight material also. He is mixing the different density material. So he want to reduce the weight without compromising or with the enhancement of the strength. So here the few declared parameters are powder layer thickness. He has kept constant 400 micron. So this powder layer thickness he has got by doing several trial experiment. Then hatching line gap 200 micron. And in brief, he has taken 50% overlap. When one scan path to other scan path, it is 50% overlap. Then laser spot diameter, he used 400 micron laser spot diameter. By using the previous technique, he has increased the spot diameter. Then gas flow rate, he has taken different gases which were suitable to these materials. And gas flow rate he has kept constant for all the materials. It is 5 liters per minute. So now we'll see what he has done in his project work. So this is the setup which is available in our laboratory. He has modified this setup to do DMLS operations. So it is a laser head, laser source he has not shown here. This is the laser source, and laser source can be controlled. Laser source and laser source or the power to the laser source can be controlled from this software, PC-based software. So now through the optical fiber, the beam is delivered to the cutting head. Again, this was a cutting head. He has modified this cutting head to this sintering head. I will show you how he has modified. And this is a controller, CNC controller he has used to give the control motion to the laser head as well as your sintering chamber. So during the operation, the laser head is fixed at one place, and we have moved this XY stages. And the small sintering chamber he has fabricated, I will show you in the later slide. The next slide, I will show you. So this is the cross section of the sintering chamber. You can see the Perspex chamber is fabricated. It is facilitated with the gas purging system or gas purging vent, and it is having a quartz window to allow the laser beam to pass and hit the powder bed surface. This is your laser head, and to move this piston downward, he has fitted one micrometer here. So micrometer is is used to give accurate movement of this substrate. So when substrate gets accurate movement, downward movement, then the powder layer will automatically get the 400 micron thickness. So every time he moved the micrometer downward or moved the substrate downward by 400 micron through this micrometer, and every time he spread the powder over this surface. So this was his laser scan path movement. So you can see here, this is the laser spot size, and he has taken 50% overlap. So this is the declared CNC path like this. So here he has moved the XY stage, not the laser head. So this was a cutting head. He has removed the top part and he has put this quartz glass window here, because you know that when you remove this one, the objective lens is exposed to the atmospheric ambient, or the atmospheric dust will sit over that. So for that we have developed a cover and we have put here with quartz window. The quartz is taken because you know that quartz is having very high melting point, it can sustain very high temperature. That's why quartz is put here. So the cutting head is modified into the DMLS head, or you can say sintering head. So in this way, the head is modified. This slide show you how the movement takes place. You can see,
Forward actually. And if this is
you can see the substrate moves downward, then powder is distributed. After powder distribution is finished, then a laser beam, after powder distribution finished, then purging gas starts. After some time, the laser is fired. So after completion of one layer, again the micrometer moves down, or the substrate move down, then second layer comes over that. So in this way, he has fabricated the components. So as he has used the reinforcement, so he has mixed both the powders for longer time, such that uniform mixing is confirmed. So he has used the power density levels like this for different material. Power density is selected after conducting the trial experiment. It is obvious for all. Then scanning speed also you have to select after conducting number of trial experiment. Then reinforcement also you have to select after number of trial experiment. So after number of trial experiment, these are the range he has fixed. So he has conducted for each set of combination of powder 36 experiment. For stainless steel and titanium nitride 36 experiment. So in all 4 phases, he has conducted 36 experiments each separately. These are the power parameter settings he has followed for different composite fabrication. So. So before doing any fabrication from powders, you have to characterize the powder. Powder is purchased from the vendor. It is readily available within India. After purchase, you should characterize it. Characterize means you have to see the grain size. You have to do at least the EDS for composition of powder, whether you have purchased powder is correct or not. So he has carried out the EDS analysis. You can see the particle size of SS316. It is spherical, and here it is very irregular shape. It is titanium alloy. Particle is irregular. So here you see, although it is a powder particle, but the shape and size are different. So you have to be very careful while selecting the powder also. So this slide shows the reinforcement agent CBN. You can see CBN is very hard material. It is used in the grinding wheel. These are the particle size. And titanium nitride also very hard material. It is used for coating of the cutting tools. You can see the particle size here. And he has done analysis, EDS analysis, and confirmed, yes, it is titanium nitride, it is CBN, and it is stainless steel, it is titanium alloy. So after that, he has mixed the powder thoroughly, then he has carried out the experiment. So we'll see what the result he has obtained from different fabrication or developed material. So first we will see titanium nitride and stainless steel MMC. So he has fabricated 36 36 sample. So he has used the substrate material as mild steel substrate material, over which he has sintered the part. You can see these are the samples And after that, you have to go for calibration technique. First of all, you have to check whether it is melting or sintering. So if you see the morphology, it will speak the sintering happened or your melting happened. So these slides, this morphology slide shows the sintering happened. You can see the distinct phases. You can see in the similar phases. If you see the interface between titanium nitride and SS316, there is no gap between them. So if there is no gap, that means titanium nitride is compatible with the 316 SS316. If there is gap, if titanium nitride is not compatible with this material, then there will be fine gap between two particles. So these things you have to confirm from your ACM examination. This you have to confirm from the trial experiment also. So after that, he has done EDS analysis, whether my reinforcement particles are there or not. So you can see here two phases are present. This is one phase, this is another phase. So we have conducted EDS analysis on both the phases. So spectrum 1 and spectrum 2 shows or confirms the presence of both matrix material as well as your reinforcement material. So it is obvious in all the processes you have to do like this, powder processes. Then you have to check the distribution of the reinforcement in the matrix. So he has polished the surface and he has checked in the optical microscope, and he found that two phases are present. So definitely you can identify as the titanium nitride has less percentage. So you can find out these are the titanium nitride and these are the matrix material or SS316 material. So this also you have to be confirmed, because you know that titanium nitride has a different density than your SS316. So if the material is fully melted, so due to a different density, the titanium nitride may float over the surface. That means surface will show the major percentage of titanium nitride, and as you move downward, you will see only 316. It is not desirable. Titanium nitride should be distributed uniform throughout of your material. So this slide confirms that uniform distribution of titanium nitride in the matrix material. Then you have to go for XRD plot to confirm the in addition to the matrix and your reinforcement, whether there is formation of some other compounds during the process. So it shows that these are the compounds, probable compounds formed during the process. Titanium carbide also formed in addition to the nitride. Then FeN, chromium nitride, Fe nickel, all those compounds are formed during the process. So again, you have to see that whether the hardness of all those compounds are better than stainless steel or your base material or not. If it is not better, then again your micro hardness and strength will be deteriorated. So here also you have to be very careful about the phases formed or the compound formed during the process. Then you have to go for mechanical characterization for newly developed material. The first is density, measurement of density. Here he has used the loss of weight in a water method. That is called Archimedes principle. He have used to find out the density. Then he has plot the variation of density with the power density. Power density nothing but the beam power divided by the spot area. So as he has increased the power density, he found that the density increases. It is obvious when you increase power density means concentration at fixed scanning speed. The concentration of the energy is more. So more concentration of energy will provide less porosity. When the is less porosity means higher density. Similarly, in different scanning speed, he has got increasing trend of the density. Then micro hardness. And micro hardness also increases with the power density. When the concentration of power increases, the packing of powder material will be much better. When the packing of powder is packing density is high, you will get hardness high, micro hardness high. These are the reason behind the increasing micro hardness with the power density. Then he has done the wear analysis. He has used the pin on disc apparatus for measurement of wear of the fabricated sample. So this is the fabricated MMC. He has cut small piece of MMC through wire cut EDM. Then he has prepared the pin. This is the cylindrical pin, and at the bottom end, he has pasted this MMC through some adhesive. After that, he has used pin on disc apparatus to measure the wear behavior. So pin on disc, this is a pin, this is the disc. Disc is rotating and pin is static. And there is some sensors are fitted to measure the wear and friction. So every time he has compared the improvement or detriment of wear or friction with the best material. So from the research paper, we found that the coefficient of friction for this material, base material, it is 0.5, lies between 0.5 to 0.6. But here we have found the reduction in coefficient friction when we fabricate composite through DMLS technique. Similarly, he has tried to fabricate this CBN based CBN reinforced metal matrix composite. Here CBN is the reinforcement and the stainless steel is the matrix material. So after fabrication, 36 experiments he has conducted. After fabrication, he has done morphological study, microstructural study, you can say. So this is at lower magnification to show the CBN particles and your matrix material particle. These are the small particles are CBN and the bigger particles are your matrix material. So higher magnification, if you go for higher magnification, we have seen the CBNs are implanted in the matrix material. And if you compare the CBN particle it matches with the CBN particles in the ACM images. So now, like previous experiment, you have to see, always you have to see the interface between CBN particle and your matrix material. So whether there is a fine gap is present or not, you have to check it. If the fine gap is present, then you cannot go for sintering operation. You cannot go for fabrication of composite. So here we also found that CBN is well compatible with the SS316. Like previous, we have done the EDS analysis on both the phases to check the matrix material as well as your reinforcement material. So we found that both CBN and SS316 remain present. Then after that, it is obvious that we have to go for XRD plotting to find different compound formation during the laser process or DMLS process. So here we found that cubic boron nitride is present. So reinforcing agent or reinforcement material is present as it is inside the composite. So there is no dissolution of this cubic boron nitride material in the matrix. So chromium nitride, in addition to this, other materials are also present. So this confirms the sintering has happened. Then characterization of mechanical properties, density, again it is increasing. Already I have told the reason behind this. Micro hardness also shows increasing trend because of better packing of powders with the increasing power density. Then here we have seen with the CBN, the friction coefficient, it is also less than the parent material coefficient friction. We will summarize at the end. Then this slide shows the MMC fabrication with a matrix material, titanium, aluminum, vanadium alloy, and titanium nitride as a reinforcing agent. It is a common practice for all those who deal with the powder material. So first you have to see and development of composite, metal matrix composite. First you have to see the distribution of material, because when you do composite fabrication, if the density is different, there may be chances of agglomeration of the reinforcement material in the matrix. So that you have to confirm through the morphological study. So for that you have to section the developed or fabricated piece and polish it. After that you have to go for SEM analysis. So he has done the same thing, and he found that titanium nitride particles are distributed more or less uniformly in the matrix material. So which is the basic requirement of a metal matrix composite fabrication. Then he has taken some optical image at low magnification to show it more elaborately. So here also he found that the reinforcement material are distributed evenly in the matrix. Then after that you have to confirm it whether it is matrix material or not through EDS analysis, at least through EDS analysis. So he has conducted EDS for the matrix material, he has conducted EDS for the reinforcement material, and he has found both the materials are present in the composite in two phases. Then XRD analysis to confirm the presence of the reinforcement material and the development of new material or the new phases or new compounds formed during the process. So like the previous studies, he has checked the density of the material. It is also increasing trend, and I have told you the reason. The micro hardness also increasing trend, the same region. Then he has characterized with the spin on disk apparatus, the coefficient friction determination for the newly developed material, and he has found that here also the coefficient of friction reduced. Similarly, he has carried out the experiment for development of CBN reinforced titanium, aluminum, vanadium metal matrix composite. In a similar way, he has examined the distribution of the CBN particle in the matrix. He has examined the interface, whether there is a fine gap or the material is compatible. It can sense the wettability of the both the material. Then you can see the CBN is present fitted in the matrix material. This is the CBN and this is the titanium alloy or matrix material. So carried out, the EDS examination has carried out. This is the phase 1, this is the phase 2, and confirm the presence of CBN and the matrix material. Then similar way, checking of density, checking of micro hardness has been done, and it is increasing trend. And he has checked for formation of other compounds during the process, And other than CBN, he has found that titanium nitride has been formed. So you know that the nitrogen from the CBN has formed titanium nitride. Maybe at the interface of CBN and titanium alloy, the titanium nitride is formed. Then, in addition to that, aluminum also formed aluminum nitride. All these are hard phase, which enhances the fabricated, the micro hardness of the or hardness of the fabricated component. Then he has used pin disc apparatus to measure the friction coefficient and has compared with the base material. And at the end, he has compared the friction coefficient with the friction coefficient of all the developed materials and with the parent material. So this table shows the friction coefficient range he has achieved through this fabrication process. And he found that these materials can be utilized for functional components, and he has fine-tuned the parameters to get or to minimize the defects in the component. And with this, he has few other slides. Due to time constraint, I'm not going to discuss all those things. He has optimized the parameters for all the material, and he has find out the best suitable parameters for the defect-free component. So with this, we have these conclusions. So he has fabricated this stainless steel and titanium alloy matrix, metal matrix composite, best metal matrix composite through DMLS technique. He has fabricated the sintering chamber, small scale or laboratory scale sintering chamber in his experiments, for his experiments. Then he has confirmed the presence of in situ metallic compounds formation through the XRD, and he has also confirmed that absence of fine gap. It is very, very important for any fabrication of metal matrix composite. Then he has confirmed that the density of the sinter sample increased with the laser power density, and also its density increased with the reinforcement agent. Then physical properties were evaluated, and with the variation of laser power density, the micro hardness and the wear resistance and the density increases. This all about my presentation. Any query, please?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this informative lecture. And we have learned a lot of things related to this DLMS process and parameters associated in metal 3D printing using DLMS. And we have also seen few case studies related to the development of composite materials through this DLMS. So I would like to thank you. Now the session is open to all. If any participants is having any query, they can unmute and they can discuss with Alok sir, Dr. Alok Das sir.
A few questions are posted in the chat box. So first we will take that question, then we will start the queries from participants.
Okay, sir. So Mr. Jaideep Viswakarma, I think he has now left the meeting, but still I will put his question.
But this question already I have discussed, the difference between DLMS and SLM.
In the beginning of your lecture, we have seen
Yes,
you have,
yes.
yeah, we have discussed about this. And yeah, I think this question is already addressed, both the questions.
Yes.
So any other participants, if you have any questions to ask, please feel free to, you can unmute yourself and you can discuss directly.
So in the better way, I can give the reference of that book.
Okay, sir.
He can refer to that book. It is elaborately explained. It gives the difference between SLM, SLS, and DMLS technique, and how different properties are varies. But again, it is in research stage. It is very difficult to say which one is better and which one is not better. But few some knowledge you can get from this book.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Question is there, I think.
Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us your valuable time from your busy schedule. And once again, I would like to thank you from the entire organizing committee for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. I thank to Dr. Pankaj. I thank to you also and your team for conducting this wonderful lecture series. And I wish all of you best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Sir.
you so much.
Okay, sir. So you can leave now, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, so for the next series of lectures for today's session, we will again assemble at 12 o'clock. Am I right, Pankaj sir? The next
Yes,
lecture?
sir. Yes, sir.
So we have this home and home care proposed. Okay, this table we refer lot of lot of things. So here
Whether someone is saying something?
I think someone posted Sonali Patil posted just now. So Sonali Patil, you can refer the book sir has mentioned. Already sir has left, so you can go to that book and you can see the difference between the, and you can choose which method is the best one among FDM, SLM, and SLS.
Okay, so can we now end this meeting?
We will post the link.
Yeah, so we will post the feedback link for this lecture session in your WhatsApp group. So all of you are requested to please fill that survey form. And for the next lecture, we will assemble at 12 o'clock. The next lecture will be by Professor PM Pandey from IIT Delhi.
So I have posted in both WhatsApp and chat box feedback form. So dear participant, all of you give your feedback that is posted in the chat box as well as in the WhatsApp. So we are closing now session and we will again meet at, we will start at 11:45. After that you can attend. Okay, thank you everyone.